You have gotten good at this. You can feel it when someone is performing wealth instead of holding it, the try-hard energy, the too-new everything. And the people faking it can feel that you are onto them. So they change the costume. The tells you learn to catch, the labels and the flash, those belong to an older playbook. The version walking past you now is quieter, calmer, and far more convincing, and it is standing next to you at the open house or the school pickup. 10 signs that still slip through, coming up. Here is what changed. For most of the last decade, faking wealth was loud work. You announced it. The car had to be a certain badge. The bag had to shout its own name. The vacation had to be posted before the plane even landed. That version was easy to read because the effort was visible, and effort is the thing real money never shows. But a strange thing happened over the last few years. The loud look stopped signaling wealth and started signaling the opposite. In the rooms where actual money sits, a giant logo became a warning sign, proof that someone needed you to notice. And the internet caught on. Searches for the quiet, understated, so-called old money look are up more than 40% in a single year. Suddenly, everyone wanted to look like they had always had it instead of like they just got it. That created a problem and an opportunity at the same time. The problem is that quiet is cheap to imitate. A plain cashmere-style sweater with no logo can be $80 or $800, and from 6 feet away, you cannot tell which one someone is wearing. The opportunity for the person faking it is that the disguise finally got affordable. You no longer need to finance a flashy car to look like you made it. You need a neutral wardrobe, a calm feed, and the confidence to let people assume the rest. Meanwhile, the actual numbers underneath American life kept moving in the wrong direction. Households in this country now owe more than $18 trillion in total debt. Credit card balances alone sit at roughly $1.25 trillion, near the highest level ever recorded. And the average interest rate on that debt is above 20%. In a single year, Americans paid over $250 billion just in credit card interest and fees. That is the price of pretending billed monthly. So the gap widened. The distance between how wealthy people look and what they actually hold has never been bigger than it is right now. In 2026, real wealth still whispers. The trouble is that fake wealth learned to whisper too. Once you know what to listen for underneath the whisper, you will start noticing it everywhere, and you will stop mistaking a good costume for a strong balance sheet. This matters to you for a simple reason. Every hour you spend feeling behind because of someone else's performance is an hour you might spend copying a life that is quietly collapsing. Learning to read the costume protects your own money and your own peace of mind. Let me start with the disguise itself. Number 1, the costume went quiet, and the quiet is the tell. The person faking wealth in 2026 is not wearing a belt with a giant buckle logo anymore. They studied the same trend you did. They know that in the current moment, understated reads as rich and loud reads as insecure. So they assembled the uniform. Neutral colors, clean lines, no visible branding, a look that says old family money and summers somewhere with a boat. Here is the crack in it. The genuinely wealthy arrive at that look by accident over decades because they stopped caring what strangers think a long time ago. The person imitating it arrives on purpose this season because they care enormously. And caring that much leaves fingerprints. Everything matches a little too well. The whole outfit appeared at once, like a costume ordered as a set, because that is exactly what happened. Those sub-$100 dupes that let you look like old money are one of the fastest growing corners of online shopping right now, precisely because so many people want the look without the bank account behind it. An $80 sweater is fine on its own. The tell is the person who reorganized their entire appearance around looking like they never had to try while trying harder than anyone in the room. Number 2, they rent the lifestyle by the month. This is the quiet engine under a lot of modern fake wealth. Nothing is owned, everything is accessed. The car is leased, so the payment buys the appearance of a nicer vehicle than the person could ever purchase outright. A room full of furniture is financed at 0 down. That designer handbag might be rented through an app that ships a different luxury item every month for a flat fee. So the bag on the arm actually belongs to a warehouse. On the surface, it all looks like ownership. Underneath, it is a stack of monthly obligations that end the day the payments stop, leaving nothing behind. The car is the clearest example, and the numbers in 2026 are genuinely alarming. The average new car payment in this country just hit around $770 a month. Nearly 1 in 5 people buying a new car now signs up for a payment over $1,000 a month. And almost a third of people trading in a car owe more on it than the car is worth, to the tune of close to $7,000 on average. Think about what that means. Millions of people are driving cars they do not own, on loans larger than the car itself, rolling the leftover debt into the next car and the one after that. The vehicle in the driveway is not an asset, it is a subscription with a steering wheel. Real ownership is quiet and boring and fully paid for, and it makes no noise in your bank account at all. Number 3, the purchase gets split into 4 and you never see it. A few years ago, if someone could not afford something, there was friction. They had to save or reach for a credit card and feel the weight of it. That friction is mostly gone now, and it disappeared through the most important hidden tool in modern fake wealth, the Buy Now, Pay Later button at checkout. Here is how deep this goes. Nearly half of all Americans have now used one of these pay in 4 services. Among the people using them, 47% admitted they paid late at least once in the past year, and that number has climbed 3 years running. Almost a third have used these plans to buy groceries. And more than half of the people using them say out loud that they could not make ends meet without them. This is a quiet parallel debt system that does not show up the way a maxed out credit card does. It reaches deep into ordinary life. Nearly 7 in 10 parents with young kids have leaned on these plans at some point. And a growing share of the loans now carry real interest and stacking late fees that, on a small balance paid late, can work out to an effective rate north of 100%, the kind of math you would normally only find at a payday lender. Consider Derek Mercer, a composite of a very common profile right now. Derek looks completely fine. Nice apartment, good clothes, always out somewhere interesting. What you cannot see is that his last dinner, his new jacket, and his weekend trip are all being paid off in little 4-part installments across 3 different apps at once. Each one felt small. $135 here, split into 4, feels like nothing. But stacked together, he is carrying a dozen tiny loans, some of them charging late fees that work out to an effective interest rate higher than anything a credit card would dare print. He does not feel rich. He feels underwater in slow motion, one notification at a time. The tell is a lifestyle that only works when every purchase gets chopped into pieces small enough to ignore. One treat is nothing to worry about. A whole life running on installments is a warning. Number 4, they are buying the photo, not the thing. This one is newer and it is sneaky. For a growing number of people, owning the luxury item was never the goal. The whole point is to be seen with it exactly once. The dress gets bought, worn for a single set of photos, and returned inside the return window. That watch in the picture was borrowed for the afternoon. A fancy hotel shot gets taken in a lobby they walked through, never a room they paid for. The entire flex exists for the length of one image, and then it evaporates. Sabrina Reyes is the pattern here. Online, she is aspirational. Beautiful apartment, designer everything, trips that look expensive. In reality, the apartment is a rented backdrop she books by the hour. Several of the outfits went back to the store the next morning, and a few of the images have been quietly smoothed and enhanced by editing tools until the whole thing looks a full income bracket above where she actually lives. Sabrina is a set designer for a show about a wealthy person, and the star of that show is a version of herself that does not exist off camera. The money was never there, only the documentation was. The tell is a life that looks incredible in photographs and strangely thin in person, because the spending never went toward living, it went toward proof. Number 5, they talk about what they make, never about what they keep. Listen closely to how a person discusses money, because the fakers give themselves away in the vocabulary. Someone performing wealth talks constantly about income, what they pull in, the size of the last deal, how good the best month looked. They will tell you the top line of their life in impressive detail. What they will never mention, because it would end the performance, is the bottom line. How much is actually left? The amount they own free and clear. Whatever is sitting in an account with their name on it after everything else is paid. The reason is simple. A high income and real wealth are two completely different things, and a large slice of people confuse them on purpose. You can earn a beautiful salary and keep almost none of it, because the lifestyle expands to swallow every raise. That is why 40% of Americans earning 6 figures a year are living paycheck to paycheck right now. Read that again. 40% of the people who on paper are winning. They make a fortune and hold a puddle. When someone only ever tells you the size of the river flowing in and never the size of the lake they have saved, they are handing you the exact number they are proudest of and hiding the exact number that would tell you the truth. Number 6, the impressive portfolio is mostly a feeling. The fake rich person in 2026 loves to gesture at investments. They have a guy. There was something they got into early. At dinner, they dropped the name of an asset or a fund or a coin and let it hang in the air. It sounds like the language of someone building real wealth. But listen for specifics and watch them evaporate, because the portfolio is usually more mood than money. Ask what share of their savings actually sits in it, or what they would do if it dropped by half, and the confident story goes very quiet. Warren Ellison is the version of this that fools almost everyone. Warren gives off calm, quietly wealthy energy. Nice zip code, tasteful home, the whole understated package. He speaks about markets with total confidence. Then his water heater breaks, a $2,000 problem, and the mask slips, because he cannot cover it without reaching for credit. And he has plenty of company. 43% of Americans could not cover a $1,000 emergency out of savings right now, and the typical emergency fund in this country has been cut in half over the past year, down to around $5,000 for the people who even have one. Warren looks like the most financially secure man on his street. He is one broken appliance away from a payment plan. Real investing is invisible and quiet, and the loud version is often just talk with nothing behind it. If you are getting value from this, subscribe and stick around, because the next few signs are the ones that hide in plain sight, and the last one is the single tell that cannot be faked no matter how good the costume gets. Number 7. Their emergency fund is a credit limit. Ask a genuinely stable person what they would do if they lost their income tomorrow, and they describe a number. A cushion. Months of expenses sitting in cash. Ask a person faking it the same question, and if they are honest, the answer is a card. Their entire safety net is available credit. As long as the limit has room, they feel fine, because in their mind. Borrowing power and savings are the same thing. Those are two very different things. One is money you have. The other is money you will owe at more than 20% exactly when your life is already falling apart. The scale of this confusion is stunning. Nearly a third of Americans right now carry more credit card debt than they hold in emergency savings. Sit with that. For a huge share of the country, the safety net is not underneath them. It is a rope they will have to pay interest to climb. The fake rich person lives here permanently and calls it confidence. When you hear someone say they are not worried about an emergency because they can always put it on a card, you are hearing a person who has mistaken a loan for a lifeboat and named it peace of mind. Number 8. The beautiful address is the entire net worth. There is a specific trap that catches high earners more than anyone, and it hides behind one of the most respectable-looking purchases a person can make: the home in the good neighborhood. The house becomes the whole flex. It is the right zip code, the right street, the kind of address that makes people assume everything else must be handled too. But behind the door, the mortgage and the taxes and the upkeep are eating so much of the monthly income that there is nothing left to actually build wealth with. This is what being house poor looks like in 2026, and it is quiet and it is everywhere. From the outside, this person has clearly made it. Inside, every raise gets swallowed by the cost of maintaining the address, and the retirement account barely moves. They bought the symbol of arrival and then spent the next 30 years unable to afford the journey. A home you can comfortably carry is one of the best things money can buy you. A home that owns you, that demands every dollar you earn just to keep the lights on and the neighbors impressed, is a very elegant cage with a great view. Number 9. They upgrade on a schedule, not a reason. Watch the rhythm of a person's purchases. Real wealth tends to replace things when they wear out, because when you actually have money, you have nothing to prove by cycling to the newest version. Fake wealth upgrades on a clock. New phone every year, whether the old one still works or not. New car every couple of years, always financed, always traded in before the last loan is anywhere close to done. Colin Hartley lives this loop without ever seeing the bars of it. Every 2 or 3 years, Colin trades his car for a newer one, and every time, he still owes money on the current one. So that leftover balance gets rolled into the new loan. Then he does it again. And again. Ask him, and he will tell you he loves always having a new car. What he will not tell you, because he may not fully realize it, is that he has not owned a car outright in over a decade. He is still, at this very moment, paying off a vehicle he traded away years ago, buried inside the loan on the car he drives today. That is the treadmill. The scenery keeps changing and the person never moves an inch forward, because the whole point of the upgrade cycle is to look like you are winning while you quietly finance the same defeat on repeat. Number 10, they perform a generosity they cannot afford. This is the most emotionally convincing sign of all, because it does not look like insecurity, it looks like warmth. The person who always grabs the check, who gives lavish gifts, who insists on covering the table and waves off any attempt to split it. In small doses, from someone who can carry it, that is simply kindness. But for the fake rich, the generosity is a purchase, and what they are buying is your belief that they are doing great. Tessa Lynn is generous in exactly this way, and everyone loves her for it. She is the one reaching for the bill, sending the expensive gift, picking up the tab for the whole group. What her friends do not see is that half of those grand gestures are quietly financed, split into installments, or paid for with money that was supposed to go somewhere important. Tessa is anxious, and she is buying approval by the round. The difference between real generosity and performed generosity is what it costs the giver. When someone consistently gives beyond any visible means, in a way that seems designed to be witnessed, the check they are really trying to pay is the one that keeps you convinced. And that check always bounces eventually. So here is the uncomfortable part, the reason all of this got so much harder to spot. In 2026, the genuinely wealthy and the people faking it can look almost identical on the surface. Their clothes are the same understated neutrals. Both park something sensible in the driveway. Both give off that calm, unbothered energy. The costume works precisely because the real thing is understated now, too. You cannot tell them apart by looking anymore, and anyone who says you can is selling you the old, dead playbook. But there is one tell that has never been fakeable, and it has nothing to do with looks or brands or captions. It shows up the moment something goes wrong. When the transmission dies, when the medical bill lands, when the job disappears, the disguise cannot hold. Because the disguise was always about appearances, and this is about reserves. The person with real wealth handles it and barely changes expression, because behind the quiet clothes is a quiet account. That boring high-yield savings sits earning around 4%, while the big banks pay a laughable 0.01. A used car got paid off years ago and never replaced for show. Money slides into the retirement account automatically every single month, whether anyone is watching or not. None of it photographs well, all of it is real. Naya Okafor is what that looks like, and you would probably walk right past her. Modest car, plain clothes, nothing about her that begs to be noticed. She drives a paid-off sedan, keeps a serious emergency fund in an account most people have never heard of, and funds her 401k on autopilot. When her roof needed repairs, she wrote a check and got on with her afternoon. Naya does not look rich, because looking rich was never the point. She was quietly buying freedom, and freedom stays invisible right up until the day you need it, and then it is the only thing that matters. Here is the math that separates a Nia from a Warren, and it is quieter and more brutal than any logo. Take two people who both earn $85,000 a year. The first saves and invests 20% of it and lets it compound. The second saves 3% and pours the rest into looking the part. Give it 25 years at ordinary market returns. The first person ends up with over $1 million. The second ends up with around $160,000. That is nearly 7 times the difference between two people who earned the exact same paycheck their entire lives. Today, standing side by side, they might look identical. In 25 years, one of them is free and the other is still performing. The gap was invisible the whole time, right up until it was everything. Which brings me to you, and I actually want to hear this one. Somewhere in these 10 signs, you probably recognize someone. Maybe a friend, maybe a coworker, maybe, if you are being honest, a version of yourself from a year or two ago. There is no shame in it. Almost all of us have performed a little wealth we did not have because the whole culture is built to make you feel behind. So tell me in the comments, which sign hit closest to home? Which one did you catch yourself doing, and what finally made you stop? Or tell me about the person you know who looks the most expensive and worries you the most. Your stories are the part of this that actually helps other people watching, far more than any statistic I could give you. And if you are sitting there realizing that nobody ever really taught you the difference between looking rich and being rich, that is not a character flaw. That blind spot got built into your education from the very start. The reason so many smart, hardworking people get trapped performing wealth is that the real lessons, how money quietly compounds, how debt quietly drowns, how the boring choices win, were never taught in any classroom you sat in. You were drilled on facts you have not used since, and left completely alone with the handful of money ideas that decide whether you spend your life free or performing. That foundation is where everything else stands or falls, and it is exactly where I would go next.